Hey, what's up, guys? What is up? Having some technical difficulty. Hopefully Joe can get in here. So Melon gives you an option to regenerate a link, but apparently you have to like set up everything again. So it pretty much deleted the schedule one and then Chaos Smash Imbecile. I don't know. You didn't spell imbecile right, so who's really the imbecile? But hopefully Joe can get it situated on his end. He was just having trouble getting into the link. Hopefully all is well. I mean, what else could go wrong today? At least I still got my hair. Oh my goodness, heaven forbid. We got, let's see, keep hair. Don't know how to spell. Oh, there he is. Joe.
Hey.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I got a new phone recently, so like I'm
Mm.
still trying to get used to everything. Like recently, like last night.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's one of those deals where like if things won't open, I eventually get to the point where I'm like just trying the desktop version of things through Google, and then I can finally get some stuff to work. But there's got to be like settings on here I'm just not familiar with yet. I'm not a tech guy, to be honest. Like I should be.
Oh,
I have the brains for it, but I'm like way too lazy for it. So I'm not lazy. I'm overworked. So that's
I get
that's
you.
really.
I get
But
you.
how you doing, man?
Chaos Smash already in here says, "Heaven forbid, heaven has forbidden your hair." Very true. God has cursed me with very light to balding hair.
Well, he's cursed me with a receding hair. So we all get there eventually, whether we like it or not.
We do, yes. We are. Well, really, I didn't like have anything specifically planned. We could just hang out and see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah.
But I figured, let's try to get just a casual stream in, at least just hanging out and talking with people type of stream before Thanksgiving. So appreciate you, Joe, as always, for being able to squeeze on in.
Oh, likewise, man. Thanks for having me.
Of
You
course.
know, I saw a somebody on Twitter that I followed that I didn't even realize I followed because I try to give back as many courtesy follows unless they just riddle my timeline with like weird furry porn, and then it's an unfollow. But as long as that doesn't happen, I'm pretty much like okay with whoever. And they had mentioned that they just watched Evangelion all through, and they the only thing they didn't like was end of Evangelion, and I about had a brain aneurysm.
Oh
But
my
I was
gosh.
like,
How
yeah,
do you how do you expect to understand Ava if you just say I don't like End of Ava?
yeah, I know it broke my heart a little bit. And I was like, have you watched the rebuilds? And they were like, no. I was like, well, you're forgiven temporarily. Just don't go stepping on my toes and watch those rebuilds because
The
then I'll really
fools.
be irate.
The fools. Chaos says
Yeah.
Joe Greg was making fun of me. Unleash your serial killer tendencies. Very true. Oh, it changed the text style. What the fuck?
Why are you making fun of people again? I heard you swore off picking on people, Greg.
Well, it's obviously to cover my own insecurities. Um, Mostly
Well,
because it's just fun. Because you enjoy at least. Well, I haven't seen Chaos like face to face, so I can't say it's enjoyable to see him squirm. So I guess it's enjoyable to read the text and assume that he's squirming. So
hey, your
what do I know?
imagination is wild. Yeah, why not? It's okay. It's just chaos. He's a good he can he
Mhm.
can take the punches and give them right back.
Absolutely. Let's see. Hide that. Chaos says, "Oh, I saw an Evangelion Hololive animation. Since I can't paste links, just copy and paste this title. The end of Hollow Angelion. Oh my gosh, They had to combine the names together, and then see that. It has to be YouTube. We're only on YouTube right now because I was just lazy and I didn't want to create all the links to the different platforms. And Rumble is getting annoying to where you can tell it to sync up to your YouTube to like a specific date. But if you decide to say like, hey, like just take the videos and pretty much back them up over on Rumble, like from this date forward, it's still it just doesn't recognize what date you put it in, at least on me. So it's probably going to make a duplicate copy of the stream because it's currently sunk up. But Odyssey is good with it, but it doesn't do the live streams, which annoys me. Which doesn't make any sense to me. Because after a while, it becomes you can get the link, so I don't get why.
Yeah.
But
all these platforms are getting a like small exodus to them, and I think they're doing their best to keep up. They don't all have like they've got money, but they got Elon money. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
he can basically fly in like the top like 50 techs on the entire planet right to Twitter and be like, "Yo, let's show these people how it's done." You know, you don't need 7,500 people to do the job of 50 decent people. So
yeah, dude, Elon, there's some stuff that I disagree with because he refuses to bring. I don't really care about Alex Jones, but he refuses to bring him on just because he posted that Twitter or that he made a tweet saying like I held my young child like in my arms as he died, which obviously no one should have to go through. But I mean, with Alex Jones, he apologized about Sandy Hook like how many fucking times? And
well, if he's going to hold people to that standard, there are about 1,000 mainstream Democrats and liberals that should not be on that platform. If that's the case, because these people have willingly let children die and let terrible things happen to them and sexualize children and let them get molested and brutalized by disgusting people. So he's got a laundry list if that's the true standard. There's a ton of people that cannot be on Twitter.
It's not even the left side too. Like both sides, like the rhinos as well too. It's all disgusting.
For sure. It's there's a whole slew of them too. I think it's the difference is they're not out there trying to normalize stuff. They're at least smart enough to still hide it from their base if that's what they're trying to do, because they know their base won't fly with them. Where liberals are blatant about it because they know their own people don't care if they're pedophiles. They know their own people don't care if they're molesting children. They're fine with it.
Isn't that like the funniest thing? It's now gotten to the point to where it's like literally when you think of a leftist, they're open about their crimes, and if you think of a rhino, they're quiet about it. But in the end, they're doing the same thing.
They're both terrible people, but like one's at least like knows their base. Well, they both know their base. The other one just knows if they're going to try to hook right-leaning people and or your typical like basic Christian, you're going to have to at least hide your crime a little bit, at least, because they're not nearly as forgiving.
Yeah. Hey Ryan, what's up? Ryan says, howdy, gents. Hey, if you want to get in on this, Ryan, just let me know. Like, we don't have anything planned. I'm just hanging out before the Thanksgiving.
Get that big dog in here.
Yeah, just hanging out before the Thanksgiving feast, I guess. Are you doing anything pretty big, Joe, or just family, like just close family, I guess, or something like?
We usually go to my wife's parents' house. And sometimes we'll hit up my family too and go over to theirs the same day. It just depends on like how chaotic and how busy things are. Like there's been some years where we get everyone in creation together for either Christmas or Thanksgiving. And then there's other years where it's like it's the bare essentials, and everyone's got like a healthy understanding of
Oh yeah.
circumstance, and we don't take it personally. Like, luckily, both sides of the family are pretty balanced, and um, they accept that it's already like a stressful day. Plus, like, everyone in my family's got like small kids and stuff, so
Yeah.
we're just we're we're all swamped with sick children right now. So I'm not really sure how
Uh,
Thanksgiving will go, but I know bare minimum we'll get over to the in-laws house. Like, I've seriously had like this weird half cold for like 3 weeks now. Ever since Matsuri, I've been getting sick like constantly, and it's honestly starting to piss me off.
that's
And
like the that was
the
like the
kids too.
oh go ahead.
I'm good. I was just stressing the fact that it's like between me and the kids, it's been nonstop every other week. Like, so we're getting something, and it's like getting exhausting and irritating now. I'm like,
Hmm.
enough of this. I just want to feel like a normal person. It's like it's
That's
killing productivity. It's
oh dude.
dragging me down. It's
I
dragging the whole family down.
I hate that feeling. I've had that feeling like I went to an allergist, like a specialist, to
Yeah.
like figure out what's up, and we took the test and like ragweed like finally decided to go ahead and start like whooping my ass down here. It's
Uh-huh.
and this like started since last September of last year. And of course, it was around that time where everyone's like, COVID and all that stuff, but like never once got it. Or I got it. I'm pretty sure I did, but like it was before everyone declared it was COVID because it was the same exact symptoms. But I
Yeah.
just got like that. Let's see. We did the lung thing where like it cleared out your lungs and then just like straight up steroid injection into me, and I was fine like the next day.
Yeah, dude. Me and my family, I'm pretty sure we caught it at
Hmm.
least once in the early days, and it passed us over pretty quick. But the second time we got it, like right after when I was on the plane home from Matsuri, I started coming down with it, and
Mm.
like I could tell something was wrong. I didn't feel right, and I was so pissed because I got through the whole 4 days. I was like, at least I got through the 4 days without anything serious. But when I got home, like, we all caught it in this house, and it sucked, and I think it was extra bad because when we got tested, we tested for
Hmm.
COVID and influenza at the same time. So like my kids bounced back in like 2 or 3 days, but like me and my wife were just,
Oh,
oh, we were
geez.
a mess for like 2 weeks, man. It was rough because it was like a dragging minor issue, kind of like what I have right now. Like, it's just this dragging half cold. I'm never fully sick, but I'm never better. I'm always just floating in this weird spot where my nose always runs and my throat's always a tad sore, no matter
Oh,
what.
dude, that's exactly what I had.
Yeah.
Like, like down to the T, like to where it like does it feel like you constantly have post nasal drip and you just want to hack something up, but it's like getting to the point where it's like it feels swollen.
Yeah.
Oh, I
All the time.
dude, mm, I hate that feeling. If there's
Yeah.
one feeling I hate when it comes to getting sick, it's when you get that congested feeling. Because for me, it kicks my ass like when it comes to my nose. And when your one side of your nose is completely plugged up, like when I'm sleeping, I have to like shove a Kleenex up on the other side just to even out the feeling of like being fully congested. It's so
Yeah.
annoying.
Like, I found that nasal spray is pretty awesome. Like, I never
Yeah.
used it test, but I got some recently, and I was like, this stuff's like magic. But it also, like, it over dries a little bit too. So you're trading off like being stuffed up for a little bit of like nose pain, but it's like, oh
Hmm.
well, I can feel the nose pain better because at least I can take like some Tylenol or something, and uh feel relatively normal at least for like 4 or 5 hours, before I have to like dose up again.
My
So
God, dude, what is with all the knives? Like straight at the beginning. First, I get called.
Nico, my God.
First, I'm getting called retarded. Then I'm getting told that I'm poor and balding. The both actually true. Like, won't lie. Well, not poor, but you know, the Lord provides. The
Hey,
seasonal Ryan says the seasonal shift has been kicking your ass today. Yeah, the seasonal shift is the worst.
that probably is
What's
part
up,
of it.
Nico?
I forget that. When I was young, it didn't affect me as bad, but I
Hmm.
literally, the day I turned 40, the day. Like everything like took like a dip. I was like, it's so weird. Why is it exact down to 1 day? Like once that 24-hour mark is passed into now you're technically 40. Like I just felt everything like cut down by like 25%. I was like, what a bunch of horse shit. I'm gonna have to like start doing drugs or steroids or something. Like this is
Uh,
BS. Getting
Nico
so
says, I
tired.
mean, look at Elon. He's rich in both hair and money. Oh yeah,
Well, like,
it's great to see Joe Ball again. Says Nico, I love Ohio, man.
yeah, boy. I love Ohio people. Well, most of them. If you get no too far north of Columbus, I'm tapping out. Those people can go to hell. But everyone south of Columbus, I'm pretty down with. And
Oh,
I love my Cincinnati people. I love them so much that I don't even care if they suck and they're terrible. I'm just gonna blindly excuse it because they're from my town. And and that's just how it is, dude. Dude, when we had Cincinnati Comic Con, um, I tried to explain to some of the folks that were coming to town that hadn't been here.
mm-hmm.
Anna, Yellow Flash, Cecil's been here before, but a lot of the whole cast that I got to come on down. Um,
I
like
would have loved to have gone down there too, but
well, next year we'll get you in. But I was like, look, it's not wild like some big cities, but it's like we're in party mode in Cincinnati. We're happy. Things are getting cleaned up. They're getting some of the like rougher areas nicened up and getting people in just better positions to thrive. That's not all like 100% welfare based. Like, yeah, there's help, but it's like it's a good kind of help, like,
mm-hmm.
teaching a man to fish type stuff. So you're
Yeah.
seeing a real turnaround in the area. Um, and it's a red area. So even though we have a lot of like Democrat leadership in Cincinnati, they typically uh,
Oh
their
gosh.
legislation's generally very conservative because they know who they're really dealing with. It's strange. Like well, they kind of get along to get along. It's not as bad as like New York or
Mm-hmm.
LA or Chicago where they go
Yep.
bananas. But
Dude,
so
fucking if
it's like
Chicago was not the big influence in Illinois, it'd be red.
oh 100%. It's terrible that that city ruins the whole state.
Yep. And this is
But
this
it's
is
been
from a native Illinois person. Let's
well,
see.
yeah. I lived up in Rockford for a while during the mid '90s, and it was it was hopping up there, and everybody I talk to now is like, no, dude, it's terrible now. I'm like,
Dude, Rock
not
yeah,
Rockford.
you want to avoid the south side of Rockford. That's for sure. Yeah, I
Hmm.
have a lot of family that's up in Rockford too. Funny enough, you could have if only we knew each other before, you could have come visit me in Rochelle.
All right, well, that dude, I went to school in South Beloit for a little while, right below the Wisconsin border. So yeah, there's a good chance we cross paths. There's a lot of people like that because I moved a lot growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So like, there's people I've met from Virginia Beach that are the same age as me, and I'm like, I guarantee we walked right by each other in like the mall at some point, or even like my wife. I moved away from Ohio in the late '90s, came back in the 2000s, and met her. And I was like, just imagine how many times we probably walked right by each other in Kroger's little kids and just didn't know 'cause we were just like a town over from each other. Like our whole lives never ran
Never.
into each other till we were adults, but we were probably right there the whole time.
Chaos
But
Wayback says if Elon goes after YouTube, that'd be great. Honestly, like, despite with Elon being all, he's done a lot of good things too. Like, the one thing that annoys me so far is the stupid, like, his reasoning for Alex Jones, because it honestly boils down to a personal reasoning. Which, if you're trying to be a proponent of like we're making Twitter absolutely free speech, then yeah, as much as you don't like Alex Jones, let him back on. Because I tweeted at him and said, like, look, I'm sorry that it happened, but like pretty much what I literally just said, I said to him, and it's like, let Alex Jones kind of be the town drunk, you know, because a lot of people will just ignore the town drunk, or like, oh, it's that one guy again, he's just crazy. Like this whole idea of like hate speech, and he even put it like hate tweets, it doesn't exist. So stop trying to make up like stupid reasonings behind it. You just don't like what's being said.
I think the thing is we want to give him credit for the good he's done because he has done
Mhm.
some good. He does deserve credit for it because he's a very rare case of billionaire. But at the same time, it's like let's not get any ideas in our heads about like the dude being our friend. He's still concerned with that Apple store, just
Mhm.
like Trump is, just like every other social media network is uber concerned about being in that Apple store.
Yeah.
So um as long as that lingers over their heads till one of them develop a solution to that as well, an easy place to get their app where they're not reliant, where it's, an Apple user can still download it. Um, that's
Mhm.
they're going to play it safe. So I don't 100% hold it against them. I think like they're buying their time, but they all have terms of service like this. Even Truth Social has it. So it's like
Yeah.
even like what's what Parlor, did Kanye buy that or something? Even that has similar terms of service.
I
So
think Kanye bought a Parlor, if I'm not mistaken. I thought it was Parlor that Kanye brought. Chaos says guy needs to get over what happened and stop being petty. Yeah, but when you have that enough money and you just bought that stuff, then you can kind of be petty about that sort of thing. But yes, if we're talking about principle, absolutely. And again, there's a reason why Twitter has a mute block button. You just
yeah,
throw that on there. Again, but this is coming down to big tech to where it's like you can't police the internet. Like stop trying cuz people are going to and that's the thing about it. It's the internet's the wild west and as far as I'm concerned, it should just stay the wild west because people aren't retarded enough. Like people will know when to be retarded and accept like weird ass opinions into the other ones, you know?
yeah. Well, they're trying as hard as they can to make sure it's not the
Mhm.
Wild West any longer. And
Oh yeah.
honestly, I don't think they're going to give up on that. I think that's just going to be something we're going to be pestered with for years to come, and
Yeah.
it's going to take a while before it cools down. So
Mhm. Nico
it's going
Nico
to take
says,
some
"Why is
leadership change.
what's up?"
It's going to take some leadership changes in a lot of other places
Mhm.
too. More
Well,
lawn-minded people.
no, I agree exactly, and that's actually something that, like, especially with this last midterm, that really pissed me off too about the whole red wave sort of thing and stuff. Once again, it just goes to show that the people in charge, like, if we're talking like rhinos and stuff like that, they're spineless cowards. We already know
Yeah,
what the left is like because they're just open about it, and they know people won't give a shit because they're sheep for all intents and purposes. But like the red wave, like it I personally thought it was hyped up way too much because you know exactly what was going to happen happened again, and it kind of ties into what I think before is that you're going to have some people who just don't care because they're the elitist and they're just going to feign ignorance forever because they're all in the orgy together. But you're also
yeah,
going to have like the people of the right side who are going to pretty much fall behind on their boomerism and say, "Well, I don't know all this technology and stuff, so I'll just agree with what you said." It's like, "No, you need to get people who know that and can and tell you like, no, what they're saying is actually not true and don't believe it," sort of thing. Nico Nico says, "Why is Alex Jones not back on Twitter yet? Legal reasons, the App Store, just Elon being a dick." I honestly think with Elon or excuse me, with Alex Jones, the he is the experiment. I personally think he is the prime person to kind of test the waters into what you can get away with on how to actually to permanently ban someone off of the internet and to limit their freedom of free speech. I think, unfortunately, Alex has made himself that target, and both sides are testing the waters about that. That's what I personally think. But to actually ask why he's not back on Twitter yet, I think it's Elon, honestly, because I think a lot of stuff would probably start up again if he let Alex back on. Ryan says Elon has the opportunity to show what true free speech is by letting Jones, someone he ideologically disagrees with and despises, back on so he can use the digital public square. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the other thing too, Joe, that I'm kind of wondering what you think about as well. Because I think because at one point Elon made a tweet talking about how like he wants Twitter to be like the place where people can find information and stuff like that, which is fine, but then it's not a public forum. It's not the digital public square that Ryan pointed out. So to me, it's like you have to have one or the other sort of thing. Because if you wanted to be a place where people can access stuff right quick and talk to the people who are providing you with this information, then don't make it a public forum.
Well, I think he wants it to be a lot of things all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's using all that terminology, even though he's using it separate from each other. Like he's not bringing up like town square and information in the same sentence usually. Like it'll be two separate tweets on with two sort of separate context. But yeah, I see what they mean, but I also know he's looking at this more like in a big picture way where it's like, why can't it be all these things? Why can't it be YouTube, be the town square, be this, be that? And it's like, it can, but they might all suck instead of one of them excelling. It just,
yeah,
we'll see. I don't know how.
I am actually drinking Jefferson's Creek, by the way. It's a delicious Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Because I had a fun day today. Nothing too bad or anything, but stuff worthy of drinking to. to loosen up. No one likes bad news.
Drinking's fun.
Indeed. And I've been mixing it with Pib Zero.
Yeah.
So a very interesting combination.
I got some Jack up in the cabinet, but I took it easy because on football Sunday, like I went a little bananas. Like as soon as I got home for the Bengals game, I was like,
oh yeah,
you know what? I just want immediate buzz. I just started chugging that.
Every Sunday, I see you post football stuff on Twitter, so I'm like, oh, I'm like, Joe's doing his thing.
Yeah, all day, dude. Well, that's part of why Cincinnati's turned into such a party town again. Like when I was a kid, the Bengals and the Reds were both red hot, and everyone was partying constantly. Like it was like a boomer fest everywhere, like that kind of like white people partying. But in the current day, the Bengals are so red hot that like everyone in Cincinnati's super happy. We love Joe Burrow more than any other human being on planet Earth, and we literally like we were at a restaurant eating and we went outside to smoke on the cigar bar when everyone was in town for the con, and people would just pull up at the stoplight like right in downtown Cincy, and you would see like 5 people all hop out of a car and just start dancing and doing the gritty in the middle of the street. Like, and they timed it perfect to hop right back in like right before the light turned red and then took off. They were like dudes doing like dirt bike tricks, like right through the middle of downtown Cincy. They weren't like, it wasn't like post-apocalyptic. It was just people having fun. Like basically now, instead of the cops running around just beating the shit out of everybody, they're like, look, as long as you're not publicly falling on your face drunk, just have fun. And everyone's getting along. Everyone's having a blast. We're all in a good mood. You know, football Sunday's awesome. You hear the war drums from a mile away coming from downtown Cincy from the stadium. It's the atmosphere is just great. Everybody's so happy all the time.
Oh, I missed this one. Ryan says, Greg, you're not balding. The hair's just migrating to your ass for the remainder of your life. Very true.
Good Lord, Ryan. My God. You can't say words like ass on this show. Can you believe his language? Ass.
I know.
Oh my God, Ryan.
I've had it up for a while, and it looks like you finally broke 75K on Death.
Yeah. Yeah, the other day, it broke through. I was super pumped. Sometimes, like, you can push something on Twitter for like a month, like once a day, and get little to no action. But if you really just give it a break for a little bit, so people haven't seen it every day, and then do a one-day blitz where you're just on it, you know, you get results. And I was able to get the, you know, maybe like $600-700 through. and
Well,
get it over the hump. So
and you're almost like you're at 975 backers, so you're almost close to that 1,000 backers.
yeah, which I was actually hoping that would get me a little closer to 100K than it did, but I sold a lot of manga, which is on the cheaper side.
Mm,
So I kind of see why the numbers didn't equal out. 'Cause for a long time, I was almost only selling the 3 packs, like tons and tons and tons of the 3 packs. So I had a good string of manga sales. So I'm
nice.
still pumped about that. But yeah, I want to get this thing to 100K. I'm gonna have to just like bunker down and hit as many shows as possible. It's just I'm always so tired. Like I get every night, I'm like, okay, you got a link to a show. Like, someone will just send like an open link in a group or something. And then
Hmm.
I'll be like, oh God, but I'll have to talk and I'm so damn tired. I guess I'll just have to take a bunch of caffeine pills and chain smoke to get through this one.
I invited Nick on the show, but he was driving. Alas.
Mm.
We'll get him. We'll get him someday. And I recently had Doug Tenaple on. Oh man, Rod, if you're in here, I'm sorry, but
Rod sat down with Earthworm Jim creator and former director of Veggie Tales and various other projects, Doug Knaple.
oh man, like I knew some salt was probably going to happen. I didn't know who, but Rod did not disappoint. Rod Chaos says Rod is lurking. No, but it goes to show that like and he even made a
What's the,
post too
what's the
saying
beef? Is
you know
it
I
just that Doug's very like not down with the gay stuff? Is that all it is?
what's up, Doug?
Yeah, like, is that what Rod's beef was?
No, not at all. Like it was just everything.
Hmm.
Like go back, like look at the like he actually like a comment was actually posted on YouTube. Like you can actually see the live chats. It should still be available. But like
Okay.
another comment too. There was just a bunch of stuff. Mostly because Doug's very which I do give him credit for that because I think at some point it's just gonna happen. Very black and white about everything. Like
Yeah.
the extremity of it. And that's why I just thought it was awesome. But man, it
Well,
like ranged from like a lot of different stuff. But
I
we
mean, I
didn't
think
like
we're
I
both
didn't really
kind of similar. Like we're pretty black and white people, despite the fact that we know there's nuance here and there. There's some things in
Mhm.
this world you just can't be. There's no point in being nuanced on. It just leads to trouble.
Exactly. And like and especially when it comes down to your faith too. Like I mean even the Bible even says like Jesus says like don't be lukewarm because I'm going to spit you out like pretty much. Like at some point you got to make a decision. It's this or this, you know.
Yeah.
Sort
Yep.
of thing. But yet that's the funny thing about life in general is life is very gray, you know. So it's like, what do we do? Is
Well,
Rod on the same level as Lofty or just on another level? I
it's funny because Lofty, like in real life, is like the nicest, sweetest human being ever. And I
Mhm.
feel bad sometimes with all the hatred he gets. I know everyone's just ribbing him, but it's like that poor dude. He's so
Some
nice, but then he like flushes it down the toilet with
I,
you know TV
I
show
don't
debate.
I haven't watched a whole lot of of Flashcast, and I've seen some with Lofty and all that stuff. I don't know, like if it turns out to be the greatest grift in the world and he like actually agrees with everyone, but he purposely goes out of his way to piss everyone off, I think that's the greatest thing ever.
Well, here's the big thing people probably don't know about him or realize with him because he doesn't like want to sound like a braggart, so he doesn't say this stuff too often.
Hmm.
Um, is the dude he is like a film school graduate. So the way the lens he sees things
Mm,
through is different than your average person because he's sitting there going, that shot was done well or this part was done well. So his criteria is going to be different from the average person where like a general story can completely ruin something for us,
hmm.
where he can find redeeming factors in the other talents related to TV and film outside of just that, like if a story's awful or something. So
Yeah, I mean, I went to school for that stuff, and I got my degree kind of in that too. So I don't know. But I
Yeah, but
agree with what you
your
said.
perception's gonna probably just be different anyways, because we're Christiany and uptight. So like we're naturally like going to be a little bit more critical of stuff that we already have a bad opinion of, where
Oh,
he's always kind of float in the middle.
I'll go extreme if I have to. Mostly because I just I don't know, like I said, some people say punch up, punch down. I kind of look at it like just punch in defense. You know,
Yeah,
counter
that's a fair
my
one.
logic is counter punch, and if your punch is the hardest punch ever, then so be it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you have to return energy sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If people want to give you a certain energy, you got to kind of give that back to certain people. It's you know who to ignore and who to give it back to. There's some people where it's going to bug them way worse if you say nothing and never acknowledge them, and there's others where you have to return some energy for them
Nico
to get them.
says, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. Nico says Doug is a good creator, but I don't really care for his opinions on faith or politics. Like you said, he tries to be all black and white, but when the gray reality hits, he just looks like a hypocrite. Yes, but I think when it comes to the Christian faith, which Doug is, like I am, Joe is, and stuff like that, like part of the faith is actually to pretty much in a nutshell draw the line in the sand saying, no, this is where we stand. And if it goes against the world, then so be it, sort of thing. And it's not like, and by doing that, it doesn't mean that you're not sympathetic to what the other side is trying to say. It's just that we found in our lives that the answers to this world is through God's word, what we declare as the Bible and what he tries to teach us. And you can kind of piece everything together to answer the questions of life per se. So that when
Well,
the
and there's
world comes at Doug with a gray attitude sort of area, Doug has been around enough or is at that point in age, and at some point people get to this point of age as well, to where it doesn't matter anymore what you try to say to someone. Like their mind is not going to get changed, you know.
yeah.
um and
Well, we've seen that the last like 7 years more than ever.
mhm.
People just bunker down worse on terrible ideas. And two, it's like I think there is something to like being black and white in a way that's like you're living in the real world. Even though some people may say, well, the real world's gray. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, if you don't kind of have some kind of black and white stance, you won't even make it in
Yeah.
what is the actual real world. That's not the internet. That's
Mhm.
not Twitter. That's still the bulk of people in this country still don't live in the world that we even do, because
Mhm.
their life doesn't revolve around what happens in the internet in any shape or form. They just check Facebook to like pictures of their
Mhm.
grandkids and stuff. So
and
it's
that's the and
there's
that's
it's what, almost 400 million people in our country, and
Oh,
and
yeah,
Twitter's
I don't know.
Twitter's got like Twitter's got like 6 to 10 million of them, maybe 20. It's
Who
not a huge
knows?
amount.
The elitists want to do population control. What do I know? Who knows what the number is?
Well, it's always floated around 350, like 350 million. But I think if you equate the actual estimates for like all of the immigrants that have came over since like Bush era, so about the last 20 years, I mean, there were some years where you were ticking up to like 2 and 3 million, even though we were only being told it was something like 350,000 people. When the final numbers were added up, just off of all the illegals that were in prison, it came up to something like 2 million within 1 year.
Oh
And I was
God.
just like, good Lord. But bear in mind, this was like 20 years ago. It's not like
Yeah.
it's a common thing all the time, but it was like there were a few big years where we had some huge numbers influx in. So I don't see how we can still be sitting at 350 million unless the amount of people dying are comparable to the amount of people coming in. That's
Hmm.
the only thing I can think of.
Chaos says, which is kind of commenting on Nico says, which is good. Rod's comment got my blood boiling, and And then I don't know what Rod was going on about, but I know there was a lot of other salt with Doug on YouTube, which I also don't care about. So with Doug, Doug, and he kind of explained it too. And when Doug was on the show, I don't care about talking about politics, but Doug's interview was to just get to know him and to connect together through that, through video games and the stuff that he worked with. And Doug has an excellent um, resume when it comes to like video games, animation, and all that stuff. And that's something that I primarily wanted to focus on. If the politics slipped in, that was fine. I didn't care, sort of thing. And Doug talked about it a little bit, that he got under hot water because he, based on his faith, had problems with the LGBTQ community, and he was not going to shy away to saying, nope, that's not how it is. I stand XYZ, and that got a lot of other but people heard about it and kind of spiraled out from there. And again, with Doug, I don't know how old Doug is, but he's at the point of his life where he's not going to change his mind. Like, he's not going to change his mind about anything. And for how extreme people can see him saying stuff, he actually's been through a lot of stuff. Like, I heard his, and Joe, I don't know if you watched it or enough, but Doug's opinions on, he thought he was a big proponent of Gamergate, but he wasn't a big proponent of Comicsgate. He thought it was kind of a sham. He said it was a sham in his opinion, and that's fine.
Well, that's also because he came into it and immediately embarrassed himself upon entry and attacked the fans immediately. And you can't walk into something and ask a bunch of people for their money and then immediately start calling them SJWs and every other fucking slimy thing you can do towards people. Well, so God bless Doug. I don't hate Doug, but I lived through that. I was there live for every minute of it, because I'm a day one CG guy. I came into this thing before it was even CG in 2016, when it was just the rumblings of the consumer. And it's, while I like Doug, and I think he's correct on a lot of his ideas and his stances, and he's super creative. I mean, you can't look at his body of work and not realize this is probably just a fun dude if you were just around him in real life. But and I've been on Doug's show, back when. So he was always good to me. I never had any issues with him, but his first big appearance on Ethan's show, it was on like a panel of like 6 or 9 other creators, and everyone was enjoying him at first, but then he started, just getting shitty with fans over like minor things, and it immediately spiraled downward. But everyone still kind of came through for him. He still sold a ton of books. He still made a lot of money, and people are relatively giving up. Yep,
that's perfectly fine. Yeah, Nico, we're not going to talk about Doug. I'm just recapping for if anybody wants to know.
He's getting informed too.
What's up?
I said you're helping me too, because I didn't see the interview yet. I'll have to go back and watch that.
No, yeah, that's fine. And actually, that was perfect, because I wanted to kind of bring it around and said that's the whole point of what I want to do with this show as well. Is even if you can connect with a bunch of like-minded people, you're going to find those discrepancies, and there's one right there, because I've heard your story about Comicsgate, Joe, and you said it's like this, and it's like, okay, that makes sense to me. And then Doug said the other thing, and that also makes sense to me. So it's interesting to get someone else's
well, and the good thing is too, there's a record of it on YouTube, so people can literally go back and watch those shows and watch his entire run of CG outside of his personal channel, which I think got taken down at some point during Trump's second run.
He's back. He's just doing art stuff now. Yes, Chaos, I see you're trying to change the subject. God, fine, we'll change it. Dear Lord. People will change the subject matter. But this is what you get. Wait a minute. Gungrave Gore.
Gungrave Gore
was an awesome anime show. Did you ever see that, Joe? Gungrave?
I don't know. It sounds familiar, but I don't. I don't want to say yes because I'm not 100% sure on that.
Wait a minute.
It's a no.
Oh, holy shit! Did Gungrave actually come out? Like, it was an anime show I watched way back in the day, and it was one of those rare ones where I believe the video game was created first, and then it actually turned into a an anime show. It's a good game too. I have them both, Gungrave and Gungrave Overdose.
Are these Japan first games that were brought over here?
Yeah, Gungrave. It was made. At least the character development, if I'm not mistaken, was made by the same person who did Trigun.
Okay.
Let me
Well, that's
see.
good.
Yeah,
Trigun.
Yep, it's based on the video game of the same name. Yeah, it was one of those because back in high school, my Eric, who was on the show with you that one time, and my other friends, his brother, which I'm still good friends with, and then someone else who I still would like to stay in contact with them, but 2016 split a lot of people in between, and some of the friends kind of went beyond, went the other way. But yeah, it was I'm looking it up here. Yeah, Gungrave was made, like the character design was made by the person who did Trigun. So very good. Yeah, it's I think it was one of those games. It was done by Sega, and it kind of like went under the radar, but it got enough traction to where it got an anime based on its own. And recently, there's a new video game and I'm trying to see if it actually just came out, called Gungrave Gore. I'd recommend checking that one out. That one's a pretty good show if you ever have time.
Yeah.
Gungrave Gore. Let me see here, because I was scoping Niche Gamer to see if there was any funny articles we could read about. Apparently, IGN did a review, but fuck IGN.
Yeah, nobody takes IGN seriously anymore.
Well, same as Kotaku and stuff. It's on Steam.
Yeah.
Chaos says that game's on Steam. So many games. I'll have to look into it. The new Trigun looks bad. Yeah, I'm not I was not a huge fan of what it looks like. But Nico says change subject. Easy. Back to death. I mean, do you have anything new that you would want to share, Joe? I know you and Shane are working on Swarm.
Yeah.
And that's starting to pop up to where if you guys actually do go to Indiegogo Swarm, you can sign up on the email list to get notified of any updates, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and my pinned tweet on Twitter, there's also a link to it. But
Joe's
yeah, you can get
in the description, by the way.
Yes, you can get on the mailing list for Swarm. Death is it's still getting worked on. I've got the bulk of it ready to get the proof done.
I love this color, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. But I'm waiting. There was a few artists that kind of came up last minute available, and by last minute I mean like less than a week ago, and hit me up. So
for
like
Death.
Yeah, like some dudes I wanted to at least do like a gallery image for, just because they're really good artists. So I paid a few guys to do me some work last minute. So I'm waiting on stuff to come in from them. But we're talking like just a like a cover image. So it's not like it's a ton of work. But,
I was gonna ask if it was like a cover image. That's cool. Did you ever get Eric July's ESOM?
No, I did not.
I didn't either. I'm kind of disappointed. I probably should have.
I mean, it could be good. I don't know. It's not really my flavor of comic book at this point in life, so it's pretty hard for me to commit to because there's just other things I want way more. But
what is your flavor of comics right now?
Stuff that's got to be like super interesting and super different. Like it has to have at least those aspects. I need to feel like I've not seen something like it yet. What
kind of response was that?
Well, it's
super interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Berserk is super interesting and it's super different. even though it's existed for 30 years.
Way to
It's
give a
things like
broad
that.
answer.
Well,
I'm
it's
just
tough,
fucking
dude, because there's really like, and there's, don't get me wrong, like there's still plenty of like old school superhero stuff I love. That's what I grew up on. But like there's nothing like new that's come out of like the West that I really give a shit about. Like
Well, I
I'll
think
sit there
that's
and read like I love like 80s Teen Titans. Like I'll never get tired of that. I love like 80s Justice League books and
mhm.
DC stuff from the 60s, 70s and 80s.
Uh-oh.
Even a little early 90s. That's kind of my realm.
You've been called out by Chaos Smash Joe. It says Joe is gay, confirmed. You're being called out, dude.
Just a little bit. I'm not all
Aren't we
gay.
all? That makes me think of a fireside chat with Matt Stone and Trey Parker. It's like kind of like they did like a spoof
Yeah.
of like if you ever got the South Park DVDs, there's like a little spoof commentary. And at one point, the announcer's like, "Are you guys, a couple?" And they like look at the camera, and Dre's like, "Well," or Matt's like, "Well, I am a little. I guess we're all a little gay." Even Old Scratch here, and you're like, they have a dog called Old Scratch, and every time in the segment, it changes to a different breed of dog every time. it's it's so funny.
Look, see, my grandpa was like quarter Cherokee, so I think that makes me
Mm.
like at least quarter bi. So I mean,
Oh,
I'm
I get
quarter
you.
bi
Yeah,
for whatever that's worth. It's not gay, but it's pretty close. Quarter bi. I think
guess
that's how
we're
the
all a little
genetics work
bi.
on the science of it.
Wait a minute. There's a Detective Conan movie. Detective Conan is still going on. My gosh, is that series ever going to end? Have you heard Detective Conan? It's an anime.
No, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, it's about like a protege who like is really good at solving mysteries, and he stumbles upon a secret organization that was creating drugs, and they knock him out and give him a pill to kill him, but instead it turns him into a kid. So then he like starts living in with his like the girl that he likes and her dad, who's like a bad detective, but he solves all the cases that he's ever involved in by like knocking him out with a tranquilizer dart, and then like uses a voice changer to like explain how it works and stuff. But the thing is that Detective Conan is like a super long show that's been going on. Like Chaos Smash says, yeah, like 10,064 episodes. Not wait, not 10,000, sorry. 1064. So 1,064 episodes. But yeah, and I'm just looking on Nichiban, and apparently there's another movie. It's like, dear Lord, when is he going to end it?
It sounds very Japanese.
It is very Japanese. It was on, I think it was on Toonami way back in the day. Or at least it was on Adult Swim when Adult Swim was dope.
Yeah, those are the good old days. That feels like that was 20 years ago at this point. Swear to God, like Adult
Oh
Swim
yeah.
hasn't been since like 2007.
Oh, did you ever? Probably one of the things I remember that made an impact that I remember in high school was the OVA Read or Die, and I remember like the commercials that Adult Swim would have. Uh,
They
those
get you
days.
hyped up for some of that stuff. Toonami and Adult Swim could really build some good anime hype. I remember when they started playing up new episodes of DBZ after we'd been watching reruns for like 2.5 years. I mean, I was like, oh shit, here we go. I was getting so
Here we
excited. I was
go.
like, going to finally see Frieza get his ass kicked. Like they always stopped right when Goku went Super Saiyan in the Frieza saga and would just start over on repeats. And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, that was so funny because that was when, especially when you watch the dub. Yeah, Chaos says it was renamed Case Closed. Yeah, it was named Case Closed over here, but it's called Detective Conan over there. One Piece in the same boat. I would probably say One Piece is more successful than Detective Conan. That's for sure. So uh, the creator of that one can milk that out for all it's worth.
Yeah, what One Piece is like culturally built into Japan at this point. You know, it's like Evangelion. It's just part of
Mhm.
the country now.
Here's the this is the commercial I remember from Adult Swim way back in the day. Here, let me bring it up. I even remember this jingle. And I love how it's just these old people just stressed from a hard day's work. I remember that commercial.
Yeah, the good old days.
That was Anime Dreams, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, dude, that's what Adult Swim. That's how they would advertise their their shows back in the days, guys. I don't
They
know
do
how
all,
old you guys are, but that's what I remembered. Boomers Anime Dreams. Hey, you leave that alone. That is a good anime show. They also did Comedy Dreams. And I like how in the Anime Dreams they threw in Family Guy at the end. Here, I'll bring up the Comedy Dreams one too. You guys are gonna have to suffer for it.
suffer for credit.
Aqua Teen, The Brack Show, Futurama, Mission Hill, The Oblongs, Harvey Birdman. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
Speaking of Doug TenNapel, the Oblongs. I think that was
Oh,
one of his shows.
there you go.
Aqua Teen, The Brack Show, Futurama, Mission Hill, The Oblongs, Harvey Birdman, Lion, Home Movie, Sea Lab, The Venture Brothers, Baby Blues, and Friends.
Baby Blues. I remember that show.
Adult Swim,
It's like it felt like Tim and Eric were basically in charge of all advertising.
dreams come true.
And here, all these little promos felt like something Tim and Eric came up with.
Oh, if Adult Swim could seriously go back to those, what I just played, it'd be the best. It's so random. I love it. It's the same two people. LOL. I don't know if it was, but if it was, it'd be the greatest like grift ever. Like, hey, we got to do this commercial promo real quick. We're just gonna mix it up a little bit. Is it weird that I was feeling nostalgic when last year watched Full Metal Panic and I never watched it? My friend actually told me to watch Full Metal Panic, and I haven't watched it yet. Keep in mind that I finally broken through my anime dry spell just because of my hatred for the dubbing community, because they
Yeah.
backstabbed my friend. So it was hard for me to even support anime, let alone the dubbing version.
You're being reminded of bad times every time you watch it.
Yep. The guy was different. Yeah, the guy was different, but I thought it was funny. But I'm finally broken through that, and I realized that I'm like, I have to go and watch the anime that what made like all the animes you see now, guys, was influenced by the animes that I grew up with, and I'm sure Joe grew up with, if not like more in the past as well. How
Yeah.
old are you, Joe, by the way?
I'm 40.
Okay, you're 40. Yeah, I'm 34. So I was in 88. So you probably grew up around the time of like Speed Racer and that sort of stuff, maybe even more.
Speed Racer was like a little even before my time, but it was
Oh,
still
okay.
on one when I was growing up, so I was still familiar with it. Like Voltron was probably one of, and like Macross were like two of the bigger imports, and I guess you
Mhm.
could even kind of throw Transformers in that mix, even though it was an American version for us, as compared to a slightly different versions for Japan. But
Mhm.
it's still there was an 80s like anime boom, but the catch was nobody knew what anime was. Nobody even connected that this was a Japanese cartoon. To them it was just a cartoon. You
Mhm.
know, no one even specified like, oh, look at their big eyes. It was just a cartoon. And then by time like the early 90s, people would identify it. But there was this weird spat in the mid 90s. The Sci-Fi Channel and a few other USA, some other networks tried to run like either anime cartoons or like anime films on like Saturday morning and stuff. But it was kind of inappropriate to be running like Akira and Wicked City right next to like Saturday morning cartoons on ABC. Like it was two different worlds. One was appropriate for kids, one was highly inappropriate for kids. And
Yeah.
but they started running these commercials for these anime VHS clubs, kind of like Columbia House with their CDs and their tapes that was popular in the 80s and 90s. They had one for anime and they called it Japanimation. And if you actually ran into a real anime fan back then or went to like an anime con and
Mhm.
said the word Japanimation,
Will they get
people
salty?
literally, yeah, they would be like, "Are you some kind of fucking hillbilly? Learn to talk right." Like that's literally the reaction they had. They were
Oh
like,
man, I only remember like for the VHS tapes that I used to have in the past, like the main tapes I remember, like, and not so much for anime, but more so like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all that stuff. I remember Deke and FHS. Like those were the producers that I always remember seeing the logo like appear.
Yeah. very common. Yep,
Mhm.
and almost everything animated for a while.
Nico says, "I thought Joe was a young buck."
Well, I always say I'm a young buck. I always spout that nonsense, but no, I'm actually a old fuck. But I used to be a young buck. So, but I still live
40's not
like
terrible.
it's not. It's but you do start to you do have more moments of clarity where you realize how many years have added up once you're at 40 or how quickly certain spats of time passed compared to others. And
Well, what I was getting at, Joe, is I finally broke through my anime dry spell, and
Yeah.
I started to watch Fist of the North Star.
ooh,
Even though I read the manga, I wanted to see the animation because I said, I need to go back to my roots. I need to go back to when I just enjoyed anime for what it was before all the gay shit got fisted inside its asshole. So I don't know why I picked Fist of the North Star, but I did.
because you knew it'd be ridiculous and fun. Like you know what you're getting, and you know it's going to be just absolutely insane, dystopic, retarded nonsense. You know, I love Fist of the North Star just because it is so ridiculous. Like it is so over the top, goofy, and the bad guys, and just dude always going for that final blow. You know,
Yeah, Hokuto no Ken. Yep, Hokuto no Ken. Yep. But I think that's what's so genius about it too at the same time, because the character Kenshiro is like drawn not as proportionate as to the other characters, because they're all like big dudes and stuff like that, and he's they think that they can take this small dude, and Kenshiro just beats the shit out of them, if not kills them, obviously. And I love, there's a certain charm to that inconsistency of the size difference to showcase of like how like impending like the character is trying to make himself seem upon Kenshiro, and Kenshiro just owns the shit out of him.
it's also very Japanese. Like you can sit there and feel like this is like an amalgamation of every anime squashed into one show, every manga, every anime that's intended for teens or older. Yeah, kind of squished into one thing. What's this comment? Has Joe Ball sat on his ball sack yet? Is he that old yet? I wouldn't say sat on, but my sack is like, it definitely gets in the way all the time because it is a little big. But
it sounds like you need a ball, though, my friend. And there is someone that we know that has a promotion for a ball.
I would call my balls a glorious burden. We'll just leave it at that.
There you go. Hey, as long as you don't have elephantitis and have to use them as a beanbag chair.
Yeah, that would be rough.
Yes, very much so.
Ow! God, ow! You know, always happen to. God, if you even cap them wrong, it hurts all the way into the belly. Oh my God.
Oh, it's like when Randy Marsh is wheel bearing his balls like all around town.
I like
Chaos
when his
Mesh-
weed's wearing off and he's trying to get inside of the dispensary and he's like, could you just bring it over to me? I'm starting to feel stupid now.
Oh
It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
I
you
love
should have
it
been
when
feeling stupid the whole
I
time.
love it when Jimbo runs over and he's like Randy. He's like, I know, right? Smoking right in front of a cop.
With this giant, yeah, it's like, no, dude, it's not.
He's like, no, your balls, they're big. Chaos Smash says, I think dubbing in anime was partially what turned you off to anime. I appreciate the art that goes into dubbing. Like, understand this. So, as someone who is pursuing the dubbing industry and still would like to pursue it, but obviously not work with a bunch of assholes, dubbing is an art form that you can appreciate of, but it's an art form that you don't need to stray away from, if that makes sense, because everything is given towards you. All you got to do is rewrite the script to where it makes sense over here, but you're not taking away the meaning of what they originally intended and not inserting a bunch of fucking stupid ideology that only one particular side agrees upon, while the other side just says, I just want to enjoy the fucking show, to where it just changes the story or changes the atmosphere of it. That's what
Genuine to the people that created it too. You know, it's like, have a little
Mhm.
respect for the people that put the work into this stuff here.
Exactly. And it shouldn't. I said it before when Eric was on the show, and I'll say it again. I call bullshit anyone who like has to change the line and insert an SJW ideology into it in order to allow the audience to understand what the Japanese were meaning, because, oh, that's just a Japanese thing. Over here, it means this. No, it doesn't. I guarantee you could have found something way better to write it as and to voice over it as opposed to what you did.
There's always a comparable way
Yeah,
to translate something, even if it's a little difficult. You know, it just takes the right mind doing it, not someone that's just always thinking in left-wing Twitter brain terminology.
Nico says, not dubbing, voice acting is an art. That is true. And keep in mind, voice acting is actually acting. Like, you'll hear some people say it, and even if it's the people that you hate, it is true. Voice acting, you do have to understand the aspect of acting and know how to and hone your craft to give a good performance. That is true. I don't care dubs because I understand prefer Japanese voice as the Lord intended. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it can. I have faith that it can be captured into our language, but I also do believe that it can be portrayed in our language and still maintain the respect and the original intent of what the Japanese intended it to be. Like, even with Evangelion, Joe, a lot of the terms they use is actually from German, like nerve, for example. Technically, it's supposed to be nerf with a hard, like with an F, because it's more of a German word. But the Japanese and Hideki Anno saw it as nerve. So how extreme are you going to take it? Are you going to say nerf? Because I've heard some dubs that said nerf and other people that said nerve. Well, the Japanese pronounced it nerve. So do what the Japanese pictured it, what Hideki Anno pictured it in his mind, nerve.
And nerve just sounds cool. Like, it's totally like
Exactly.
symbolically fitting of everything about that. Like, it's genius. Like, even if it was accidental genius, to me, like, every time I've seen nerve, like the logo, the how it's used in the show, everything about that program, I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? And then I was like, because I was only 13 when this show came to air. That's why I didn't think of it, because they beat me. But
that's why Hideki Anno is a true baller, because he said at age 14, you need to understand what the real world is like.
He's a baller and a shot caller. You can't deny it.
He said, "No, children need to know what the reality of life is at this age right now, and I will make the animator do it." Oh man. Chaos Smash says there are some dubs that are good, and I prefer saying normal VAs, and that's true. And really, there's an extent to it. Because at the end of the day, it's the director that says, the read you did, that's what I'm going with. Even if you disagree with it and you go, well, this read I did before, I think it actually captures it too. And funny enough, whatever. I took a voiceover class and I was kind of like suggesting sort of thing. And the guy's like, are you disagreeing with the director? And it's like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. Like, no, that's not at all what I'm saying. Like, it sounds like this. What are you trying to do? Like, tell me what you're trying to do. Because with voice acting, as an actor, you're being hired to give a performance that the director says that suits what I see this character as, and what and they will say to extent what the Japanese character or what the Japanese voiceover is doing as well.
Yeah.
They're doing that as well. But part of your job, I'm seeing a loading sign on YouTube. Chaos and those guys, is everything running okay on your guys' end? Okay, it looks good on my end. Okay. It's normal. Okay, good. But part of being an actor obviously is you're giving your performance, you're providing something in your performance to the character that the director said, that's what I want to in this character. So you have some lenience of what you're giving into your performance. But also at the end of the day, the director is the one who makes the call and makes the shot. Because you're going, and you can have flexibility to go, hey, can I try it this way? Because sometimes you'll try it, what you're thinking. The director will say, yeah, I want to see what you're thinking about. You do it and they go, oh yeah, that's way better than what I was thinking. And then they'll go with it, sort of thing. So there's that as well. But there's also ultimately at the end, the director decide what they want to use and what they don't want to use, sort of thing. So some of the stuff is based on the director, but sometimes it's the performance that's also it's the performance that's shitty as well. It went off for just for a second. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I don't know.
Dude, I watch a lot of Japanese wrestling and like to a point with it where like for a long time you could only get it with like Japanese commentary, which was fine because I honestly didn't care about the commentary. I just like the enthusiasm of the Japanese guys. They lose their minds over everything and scream and yell and go bananas, and it makes it even more fun. But I got to a point where once they did get like English commentary teams, I would hear it and just be like so bored. Where it's like, look, if you're gonna have English people doing commentary on Japanese wrestling, they have to at least bring the energy of the Japanese commentators. Because I instantly just go right back over to Japanese commentary and I listen to it, and it's like you said, it's a performance thing. It's like, yeah, just because you're calling a wrestling match. I watch a little sumo. But I mostly watch like New Japan, old AJPW, All Japan, old UWF, Pancrase, stuff like that. I'm just answering in the chat comments, but yeah, I watch a whole variety of Japanese fighting and
that's cool.
and different things, kickboxing sometimes too. But a lot of the MMA and kickboxing phase has kind of died over there, like it had its red hot phase when UFC was huge in the States too, and pride fighting was real big over in Japan. Those were some cool days because Japan was like, here in the States, we always tried to do things like in a very a real athletic, straightforward way. Like, here's your weight classes, here's your divisions. Pride would be like, what kind of freak fights can we put on? Where's them freaks? Let's get us a guy that's 7 feet tall, put him up against a guy that's 3 feet tall. Let's see how it goes. So, like, they would just do these freak fights that were absolutely amazing and awesome. And the fighters were far more like worried about putting on a good show than winning a fight. So that made it fun too, because guys would go out there and you'd be like, these are sound fighters. Why are they just going bananas and not fighting sound? Because they know the Japanese want to see them punch the shit out of each other. They're not concerned with a technical bout. They want to see these dudes obliterate each other. So, like, it's really fun. I love Japanese like combat sport. I'm not the biggest fan of like their baseball or their football or any of that kind of stuff, but their football teams. You know how like here in the States you have a lot of like corporate sponsors, so you'll see teams with like corporate name states. Like it's pretty common. Over there, all the corporate sponsors actually name the teams. So like they have football teams that are called like the Tokyo Panasonics, like shit like that. So you're sitting there being like, to us in the States, like their football teams are basically all named after devices and junk. And our football teams have like actual football team names, like, the Bengals or the Patriots or something kind of fun. No, over there, it's like, like the Rokus, it's like, oh God, you can't let corporate companies just name your teams. It's so generic.
And I think what you kind of touch on, Joe, is something that I think that beauty was captured in the late 80s, early 90s, and then early 2000s. Is when you're talking about like how the commentary didn't match up to the hype of what you're seeing around you. It's kind of the same way with anime. When you see a character screaming something, but the English VO is saying it like you would talk normally, and it goes, the animation doesn't match the voiceover. And I think something like that is starting to become forgotten with the current anime dubbing, because they're trying to bring in this realistic performance. Now, I think there's some good things that happen that is happening with the current dubbing that I think with the past dubbing, that anime voice, Joe, where it's like, I am the hero, like that sort of talking sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need that. But when the person who delivered that voice in the past, it at least matched the animation that you see going to it,
Yeah. Well, we both know there's some that are more offending than others in terms of like some dubs where you can just tell like nobody had good direction, nobody came into it with enthusiasm, or even watch the reference material to know what they were getting into from the Japanese side at least. And then there's others where they even overdo it, where it's like, okay, I get it. The Japanese girl yells a bunch of shit, but I don't want to hear this American chick trying to scream and yell. She sounds stupid trying to do it. So it's this weird fine line where sometimes they match the.
I agree.
It's like it's hard to be too critical because there's so many variables on if a dub's going to go well or not, and it's dependent on multiple people. It's even dependent on time. We've all seen plenty of like 80s anime that was like, OVAs that were quickly just dubbed with some garbage ass dub. But we got used to it growing up. We looked past it because the stuff was usually good enough. But now we're in an age where we've been spoiled with so much good stuff. It's like, no, we expect a little more now. It was different then. It's now that stuff's accessible.
I think it's kind of dying down a little bit too, like with the current animes nowadays. Because I think like the good stuff that we grew up on, I think that was the peak. And again, I talked with Doug about this too. Not trying to bring Doug up again in the sense of like topics.
Oh my God, Doug TenNapel.
Doug TenNapel, that man. But I asked him and I said, like for me, I was born in 88, and I grew up at the end of the 80s, but essentially grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. And to me, it just seemed like there was this freedom of where no matter how far-fetched the idea seemed, go ahead and do it. And if it fails, it fails. If it's not, then it's good, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right.
And I feel like that's like with today's anime, and even like, and really with anything, to be honest, it's not there anymore. because it's been replaced with this stupid, we have to make sure that we're saying the right things, that we're not offending anybody and all that stuff. And it's like, well, that's part of what gave it its charm, is because it's like, I'm going to say this, and if it pisses you off, so be it. If not, then people are going to get a chuckle or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and we
Yeah.
just there
Oh, go
used to there was a time in the late 80s, as you said, through the mid 90s, and it kind of tapers out in the early 2000s, where
Mhm.
there was an interesting creative boom where corporations and stuff were not as focused on keeping creative people down as much as just taking advantage whenever they could find somebody to kind of buy an idea and exploit. And I'm not saying that in like 100% negative way. Like, Ninja Turtles, for example, it
Mhm.
could have only happened in the time it happened and exploded the way it did, and inspired the amount of generation after generation of kids that still love it to this day. But it had to be turned into a cheesy cartoon and a cheesy toy line for that to happen. And I don't frankly have a problem with that, because I loved that
Mhm.
stuff growing up. It made me love the Turtles, and the
I
the
love
old school comics were cool as well, and I like those. But I
Have
don't
you
I don't always see a problem with someone taking something that was maybe more serious and goofing it up a little bit for the masses, because we don't live in the times anymore where that happens often.
Mhm.
Where it was all the time in the late 80s and the early 90s especially. I mean, you saw grunge clothes in J.C. Penney like 2 days after grunge got popular. Like, all the mannequins were in like ripped up flannels and dirty ass blue jeans and Doc Martens,
Oh gosh, so
So,
bad. And I think
which
that
also killed grunge in a matter of like 2 years because it got exploited too quickly. But
that's where Hollywood is, well, despite the cesspool that Hollywood is, I think that's where it's really failing, because they're banking on this already established franchise, and they're going, well, we're going to make it for modern audiences, and it's like, that's exactly what the original things did not do. They didn't do it for the modern audiences, or for the whatever the perceptive ideology is being projected upon.
yeah,
It's like, again, it was that freedom of, yeah, go ahead and do this wacky thing. It's probably going to fail, but go ahead and do it as long as you're having fun, sort of thing.
yeah, yeah. And it's just
Mhm.
there's like people's enthusiasm for really being like super creative and trying to really think of things that are different and fresh and new. I know everything's somewhat a rehash, but
Mhm.
you put your own twist on it, you make it new. Um, it's just that mentality is just smaller and smaller and smaller. I still
Mhm.
stumble across some cool people online though. Like, thank God for the internet for that, because you will
I
find
know,
some
right?
really interesting people that deserve a little more boost than what they get, that do some really cool work, whether it be music,
Mhm.
cartoons, dub, whatever. There's always people in each of the creative fields where if you dig enough, you'll find some really cool cats that do some really interesting stuff.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, I try really hard to make it different, but not in like a look at me, I'm different way. Like, I
Mm,
try to think of like interesting, creative ways to approach it all the time.
I think it's definitely, you can tell the difference between someone who is trying to bring back the nostalgia or the energy that from the past brought, to someone who's going, I'm just trying to bank off of it,
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah,
Chaos
you're right.
Chaos Mash, and I think you're capturing with Death like really well. Chaos
Thank
Mash
you.
says, this is for Joe. Someone made John Cena and Dwayne Johnson into a China shills in the latest WWE gave Zong, Xena, and the Walk or the Woke.
Yeah, well, they are Chinese shills. They're both fucking useless individuals. Like, I'm a little more forgiving of The Rock, but like,
Oof.
I'll always hate John Cena. So
Oh gosh, Nico says, you know what? You know the problem? Women. Japan keep their comic industry based. Uh,
uh,
Hopefully it stays like that a little longer. Joe, hold down the fort real quick. I'll be right back.
Right on. Yeah, you know what? While Craig's gone, I'll hate on John Cena for a little bit because he's really fun to hate on. I don't know how many wrestling fans are listening or familiar with the long illustrious career of John Cena, but that dude, like, he single-handedly, while they treated him like the biggest star in that company, like, you can watch the ratings decline from the minute he was made the top guy all the way up till even now it's still affected by it, but he single-handedly took WWE from, the early 2000s. They still had a little bit of the hype of the late 90s, so they were still raking in a couple million people every Monday, and it just dwindled and dwindled, and it got to a point where they had to fight to keep 1 million people watching during the Xena era, and then they had to fight to keep 800,000 people watching, and it was more and more and more of a decline. They bounced back a little bit, obviously, since then, but yeah, Xena was he's like his time in WWF was just a big, nasty bruise on that entire company. And the amount of guys that just got squashed and buried because Vince couldn't look past him. But yeah, I consider Xena and Vince directly responsible for such a massive decline in wrestling, and just, it went right back to being something people wanted to just crap all over again, instead of the cool late 90s phase where it was something fun that literally everybody in the entire country was watching. You couldn't go to, I remember going to school and there were kids like crotch chopping, doing the DX stuff everywhere. Stone Cold shirts everywhere. I was living in the deep South at the time, so they loved them some Stone Cold. But
Stone Cold Steve
yeah.
Austin.
Stone Cold. Yeah, but yeah, Xena flushed all that wrestling progress down the drain. So
Ryan, the editor, says some of the best manga, where was that? Written by women, though. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, they've done.
believe-
The gals have
Yeah,
done
that's
some great work over there.
yeah, that's fine. Full Metal Alchemist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're correct. But the thing is, the men have still all done it better. Good try, though, ladies. Good try, Japanese ladies. You'll never be Otomo. You'll never be
Japanese
Miyazaki.
They know what's up, though.
Yeah, they do. They know what's up. They're good girls.
They're not blue-haired. You know what I'm saying?
And if they are blue-haired, it's because they're fun and hip, not because they're mentally retarded.
Oh my gosh, Joe. Chaos
Yes.
Mesh says Greg's a faggot. Really
Well,
rude. What the fuck does that mean?
Come on, Chaos. How dare you use such language as that towards a fellow man of Craig? How dare you?
I'm already tipsy, as you can tell by the slurring of my words, from Jefferson's Creek. Well, after that comment, I might just have to pour another one. But we're not trying to go too ham. Alfarius, hey, what's up, dude? Says, y'all see the hit piece Vice? I was just reading about this. Says, you all see the hit piece Vice did on manga and anime. They knew they fucked up because they turned off comments and blocked the video from being seen in Japan. It's gonna, with Anime Matsuri, with the whole situation with Vic, and I'm not saying that just with voiceover. I think with manga included, because I think, well, not I think, I forget who it was, but there was a manga artist and writer who it got released to the West. They tried to change the character as being transgender, and the creator said, "No, that's not what my character is." These people, I think Japan is slowly starting to realize on how bullshit the westernization of the manga is doing strong compared to comics, but with the voiceover and now it's even bleeding into the manga, they're starting to realize on how bullshit it is and actually how they're going to probably be losing money because these retards are making assumptions that they have no fucking clue about.
And they're realizing you cannot trust people in the American entertainment industry
Yeah.
to handle your work properly and not do something ignorant with it. And I've heard that this has kind of been like an issue in other countries as well for going back all the way to like the 70s. But
Yeah.
it wasn't an issue in the sense of it was intentionally politically biased. It was just people did not know how to translate things to make sense the same way. It was more of like a reasonable reason. And and a lot of times creators said we looked past it because we knew they did the best they could in Mexico to translate DBZ. It is what it is. Whereas I think they're learning with the people in North America messing with their stuff is that they're intentionally trying to change what it is. It's now it's personal. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Chaos is apparently I'm dying of laughter. Well, I'm glad you're getting fun out of it. Alfarius says, I think I turned my childhood friend into a girl is an Otokonoko, aka crossdresser. I think that's the one that I remember, but the creator said that was not the case. And if they're caving under this retarded Western peer pressure, if anyone's listening out there, do not listen to these fucking idiots because they are changing what the original intensity was into something that they are perceiving in their head. It's the same garbage that they're trying to do now where they're trying to say based on the voice actors and stuff like that, like, oh, you know, it's all about the LGBTQ and it's all about making sure that, you know, there's equality all around. Like Joe, there was recently a voice actor, Jamieson Price, I believe is the dude's name. He was the guy who voiced Chad in Bleach. He's not returning to the role of Chad.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, by not accepting this role and for future roles, he looks and checks to see if that role that he's auditioning for is a person of color or this or that. So
he's really bad at his job is what you're telling me?
What's up?
So you're telling me he's really bad at his job. He doesn't understand.
He's a racist is what he is.
Yeah. You don't have to be the exact person of a role that you're voice acting. That's why it's called voice acting.
But he is convinced that by doing this, he is giving access to POCs because apparently in the anime industry or the voiceover industry, it's been such a hard time for, you know, POC and all this stuff because, you know, white people are always getting cast or what have you. And it just brings up multiple questions. One, so you're admitting you're a racist because now you're looking at every audition by going, what's the skin color of this character I'm auditioning? Two, you're saying POCs can't get a prime role or whatever. And by your good grace, when you step down, you're giving them more access. So pat on the back for you.
Well, we know what it is. If this was really an issue for him, it would have been an issue from day one and not
that's what I said
years after the fact. It's like,
Joe,
but you're just going it for fake now. You've been an adult for a long time, my dude. If this just now crossed your mind, you're a fraud.
Joe, I said that immediately when I read his tweet. And I said, why did you not do this the minute The minute you said I'm gonna take on this. Oh, by the way, the character Chad is from Bleach. He's half Mexican, half Japanese.
So he's not
Also, oh, and by the way, the new person who voiced him is apparently some white dude from Florida. And also, the guy doesn't talk a whole lot. He's very like quiet and preserved into himself, except probably when you're in filler. But when I read the manga, I don't think he had a whole lot of talking roles. But obviously, with filler and anime, he may have gotten more. So you're telling me that out of the goodness of your heart, you're stepping aside to let someone else voice this character who doesn't talk a whole lot in the show, and ultimately in the end, some white dude voiced the character that replaced you.
Well, someone's always willing to take the job.
That's why I think SAG-AFTRA actors or people who try to promote SAG-AFTRA are a bunch of fucking idiots. Because one, in the end, the people who are already in the position of power of being SAG-AFTRA, they're not going to go, well, you know what? I want to show that how I'm so like fair to everyone and how I want equality for all the other actors. I'm going to step down from this role and let this other person voice this character. They're not going to fucking do that. You know? And second of all, like, I guarantee you the people in power are white dudes or white women or what have you. They're not going to give up this power. You guys are fucking retarded.
They are. They
Joe,
don't realize
makes no sense.
The
I want to down this full bottle of Jefferson's Creek, but I shan't because it'd be foolish.
I mean, it depends. Do you want to wake up on the floor or in your bed?
I want to wake up to where there's nothing but gumdrops and happy rainbows being shown in the sky, and all is right with the world. That is what I want to do.
We got a ways to go, brother.
I know. I should have bought 4 Jefferson's Creek bottles, but I won't.
Should have bought a case of that shit. Oh, yeah.
Chaos Smash says, when the Full Metal Alchemist creator did the handshake scene between Armstrong and Izumi's husband Sig, either she knew how men behaved or it was a wet dream of hers. Chaos Smash says, Joe, Chad started opening up in the Philbringer arc and then on the floor. People apparently want to see me pissed drunk, but we're not going to do that. I'm just
a little tipsy. Tipsy.
I'm a little tipsy, but you know, I'm just trying to alleviate the pain. No, I'm just kidding.
Craig's like, I'm gonna start playing with my gun. We're like, oh no. He's just shooting holes in the walls.
Oh no, I'm not that fucking retarded. I'm not that stupid.
Gets out the clay pigeon shooter shotgun. Starts doing some skeet in the backyard in the middle of the night.
In my apartment parking lot.
Yeah. Oh. That would actually be kind of funny. Some dude's like, you know what?
I'd
Fuck
laugh.
this shit. I'm going out back and I'm shooting some clay pigeons.
Joe, you want to know what's funny? So I get home before my roommate gets home from work, and I would just leave the door unlocked for him so he could have come in. The place where I used to live, it's in the same apartment complex, but for pricing and, you know, maintaining a fair deal and all that stuff, we moved to a different part of the apartment complex. Oh my goodness. So I think it was the neighbor upstairs. He was on the phone or something, but he straight up just walks into my apartment and I hear him talking on the phone. And I'm just like, that is not my roommate. Who the fuck is this coming into my apartment?
Yeah.
So I grab my gun and I load it and I cock it. And I think the guy heard the noise and he's like, oh shit. And he just books out of my apartment. And I open the door and he's gone. And I'm like, well, that guy's never going to come around this place again because he knows that if he walks into my apartment again, I'm going to be like, dude, you're not welcome here. So I probably scared the shit out of that guy. Needless to say, he never did that again, might I add.
That's good. Lesson learned on his part. Don't walk into
True.
other people's apartments
'Cause
and
you're
you won't
not
hear
the-
the guns clicking.
No matter how much of an intense conversation you're on the phone, you're still able to be aware of what apartment you're walking into. And you can read a sign, by the way.
Yeah.
Alferia says, know a guy who works in the manga industry. Oh, cool. Super low on the totem pole. That's all right. All the Westerners he's seen who work with this company look exactly like Monica Rial and are obnoxious and demanding leftism of the mangaka and be more PC. That's what I'm talking about, dude. One, I'm sorry that person has to deal with it because that's not who the majority of the fan base is. They're not those sort of people. They're
Not
just
like the opposite, really.
yeah, they're the opposite. And I'm hoping that that person can work with people who actually give a shit about their work, because they'll do it right. That's why I'm hoping Anime Matsuri, the studio, grows more, because you want to just produce work and just be like, hey, this is what the creator wanted to do, so we're just gonna dub it, and there you go, sort of thing, and not insert any bullshit or all that stuff. Chaos Smash says, fire them or either throw them out. Yeah, they're. Nick said it. Joe, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm assuming there's got to be there's going to be some sort of gatekeeping that needs to happen. And it needs to be the right gatekeeping in the sense of, look, if someone comes in here and goes, we need to change it so it's PC friendly, it shows the quality and all that fucking shit, like, no, you're gone. Like, the story is this. We're going to showcase this. We're not going to change it. And we're going to try to do whatever we can to represent it the way you, the original creator, wanted it to,
Yeah, well, you have to gatekeep at this point. If you're the one in charge of whatever field of entertainment a person may be in. Obviously, as fans, we can't do anything outside of like our general hobby space, or the people we associate with. But on an actual like level of a business or a company, yeah, they have to gatekeep bad political ideologues out of their companies, because these people, unless they can come to work and just do their job minus the ideologue part, if they want to be an ideologue outside of work, whatever, that's fine. But it's just a red flag at this point for most people. You don't even want to take the risk of hiring them. You just say no right out the gate, and you gatekeep, and you only keep serious, creative people around with good intentions, and not these weirdos. Because let's be frank, they're almost all mentally ill, don't live in reality, very skewed perceptions of everything, very lopsided moral compasses. It's just, why would you want that around? They literally ruin everything they touch. They're not capable of creating. They're only capable of ruining and tearing down and screwing up things that were perfectly good and were fine the way they were and could have been improved. But I don't know. The left just goes backwards, and every place they go does as well.
It's truly sad because, like, how did it get to this, to be honest? Like,
they're the ones that run everything that has endless budgets and huge reach. It's all these CEOs, all these people are from hoity-toity families that are all super lefty. So
wow.
they just they're raised going to school in super lefty schools. That's all they know.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
Money's not an
I
issue. They don't care. Soros will give them more. Like there's no
I hate
reason
it.
to earn anymore.
I hate it. It's like we can't build something based off of like an idea that we've had for so long and we want to just share it with the world sort of thing.
Mhm.
But without someone coming in and going, well, some people may not like it, so you might want to change it. It's like, no, fuck them. Because if they're not going to like it in the beginning, they're not going to like it in the end. So why the hell would I change it to hope that they'll come in and like it, you know?
Well, yeah, and who cares if a bunch of broke people living on cat food like or dislike your product? They don't buy anything. They can't afford to. Most of them are just acting out because of their own situations. So since they can't afford something or have something, they have to ruin it for everybody. I mean, it's catering to lefties that aren't billionaires is a fruitless endeavor because it's only
Yeah.
the rich lefties that are rich. Everyone below that are barely, like lower middle class. So, and they're all young. Most people grow out of it. Being
Yeah.
lefty is just a phase for 99% of people. And just ultra lefties don't realize it. It's like, do you realize when Woodstock was over and the acid wore off, most of y'all went right back to your parents' house and went right back to normal society and normal jobs and going back to church? Like, you only come across so many people from the late 60s that still live in the late 60s mindset, like boomers like that. And it's because most people grow out of it. It's just stuff that makes sense when you're 17 or 18. By the time you've lived in the real world for a while, you realize like the stuff has no basis in reality. It's all just loony nonsense to seize power
Mhm.
from regular people.
What we need to do is we need
Burn the circus down, cause the world is full of clowns. They're all stupid and they're proud, painted smiles on their mouths.
that's what we need to do.
Tom McDonald, he's a
What's that?
character.
Tom
That's a good old
McDonald.
Tom McDonald. Yeah.
I would love to have him on a show. I reached out to him. I would love to talk to him.
You know how I like to refer to Tom McDonald? He's every MAGA mom's favorite rapper. A MAGA mom's favorite rapper.
It's so interesting about Tom McDonald because I like I'm not the biggest. I enjoy some rap songs here and there, but I'm not a big supporter of rap, because it's the same damn thing over and over, sort of thing. Tom,
Yeah.
like, some people have said, well, he says the same argument topics over and over. And I'm like, well, that's what's so funny about the whole thing is that he's repeating the same thing, but it's on the other side. And I think that's what's so genius about it is because he's saying what everyone thinks, but can't say. And he's using rap, which is one of the most like kind of driven, like you can think of rap, you can think of these certain topics like every time you hear a rap song sort of thing. And he turns it on his head. I love it. I love it. I love to have Tom on the show. I need him.
I mean, he's definitely got his fan base and people that really.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have any true problem with him. I just find him to be like really cringy and retarded. But
Oh yeah,
that's just my take because I can't take him seriously. Like, I can appreciate what he's saying, but I can't ever take him seriously as a human being. But he's,
whatever.
dude, his face is covered in tattoos and he's got dreadlocks. He looks fucking retarded. He needs to get his shit together.
Well, I
But
think that's
I
the
get it.
funniest
It's a
thing,
gimmick.
though.
He's got to look a certain way. He's going to have his thing too. But
Yeah, I was kind of turned off like with that, like the same as you, but like I think that's in a weird way, it's almost like that's kind of what he planned it to do because that's what you think of. But then when you listen to what he's singing about, it's based, sort of thing. But
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like I I think you can take the first NWA album, and if people go back and listen to that, that album is actually intimidating. It sounds dangerous. It's cool because of that, because it's not like the mumble rap that we're so prone to hearing these days, or like the
Yeah.
weird emo techno crossover rap you might find on TikTok and stuff like that, and the trap core. But that first NWA album, it literally sounds edgy and dangerous. The tone of it is so intimidating, and some of the weird just sounds they use to make you feel uncomfortable. And um, that's kind of like where I lean towards stuff like things that I can hear the creativity in it as music outside of just being hip hop. And
Yeah.
I'm a white guy that plays guitar and drums and stuff. I'm obviously never going to appreciate it the way a real hip hop head does. But
I think I agree with you because it's really hard to appreciate hip hop because like you said, it's kind of like the same thing over and over. It's at least for me, that's what it seems. But like I liked and I respect Tom just because he's introducing that in a new way that I think that hasn't been done before. But yeah, it kind of gets
yeah,
it gets there.
you know what it is? It's one of those things where it's like it's not for me, but I don't want to like ruin everyone else's good time. So that's why I don't really bother like saying one way or the other in most cases. Like sometimes, like in this case, like someone will ask me like, "What do you think of him?" And I'm like, well, a little cringy and stupid, but like
Well,
people
you know
like
me,
him, and I
Joe.
get why people like him. So I don't got anything against him. The guy makes bank. He's very popular. Like
Mhm.
if you look at some of his numbers on like his downloads and his Spotify, is it Spotify? I forget, but it's one of the
He's on
platforms.
I think a
His,
bunch of stuff.
yeah, but his numbers are absolutely insane. So the dude's onto something. I can't blame him for what he does. If I could do exactly what he does and make his money, I'd
Mhm.
probably do it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
It's not like I'm going to be a hypocrite about it. If I thought I could pull that shit off, I would, but I can't. I'm
Yeah.
way too much of a fuddy duddy to pull that off.
Chaos Smash says, "Rip Coolio." Yeah, Coolio died not too long ago.
It's
That's
so weird that he was talking about like the nastiness of the entertainment industry and how he was finally ready to come out about it,
mhm.
and then he's dead like a week later.
Makes you think.
Well, you see that with so many of these musicians. Like I think sometimes the conspiracies get exaggerated as if they
Mhm.
had some massive plan. But it's like, I don't know if they had a plan, but they publicly said there's pedophiles everywhere and we have to do something about it. And then they end up dead a week later every single time. Even Elijah Wood backtracked his statements about Hollywood being filled with pedophile Jews because the minute he did that, there were people on him and then they buried it in like 24 hours and he went
Oh
full
no,
dead
not
after.
Elijah. No.
Yeah. Well, he said his mom had to keep an eye on him everywhere. Like she couldn't leave him on
Wow.
set with anybody ever because she knew like there's creeps here and they want to just drag my kid off to parties all the time filled with adults. Why do they want to do that? No. I'm here on set. You do his filming stuff, he does school, and then I take him home. So like if he didn't have a good mom around, imagine most of these kids. I mean, I've listened to plenty like interviews with like Nickelodeon moms and Disney Channel moms,
Oh
and they're
gosh.
all the most irresponsible, gross people. They're given like gifts and shit, and they're like, "Well, the agent gave me this nice thing, and then said, don't worry, I will take them to the party. It'll be fine. Nothing will happen to him." And my kid got molested. It's like, yeah, because you're a terrible fucking person and mother.
Dude, it's
Piece of
so
shit.
demonic. So much
Yeah,
shit is happening behind the scenes that the Bible specifically says. The Prince of Persia, the Prince of Greece. It's so demonic, man. It's insane. And it's truly scary. It's truly scary.
it is because it's been going on for a very long time. It's in your face. There's really no debate about it at this point, and people like they still get it's still easy to get caught up in entertainment industry stuff, forgetting that that's even the worst part of it, all of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm prone to it too. I do the same thing. I know it's not every single person. There's plenty of guys that are just gophers on sets and assistants and stuff that they don't, they don't have any clue. They show up, they clock in, they run a camera and go home. It's obvious we're not talking about those people. It's the people at the top of the entertainment industry are just, they're probably some of the scummiest people on this planet, short of, political leaders, things like that. So
Yeah.
corporate heads that are running really, slimy, nasty companies.
Chaos Meshes. I used to listen to Will Smith and the slap happened. That was a man who was truly frustrated of the relationship that he's in. I truly believe that. And unfortunately he took it out with Chris Rock, and not the smartest thing to do.
They both need slap though, so I wish Chris would have just popped him back.
I do wish
Both
too, but
deserve a pop.
I think Chris took. I wish Chris would have like what you said, like responded, but I think he responded later, if I'm not mistaken, in an interview and really ripped Will apart. But like, I think it was one of those things where and that's just the natural human being response is you think about what you should have done later on when it actually happens, sort of thing. Some people are gifted in being able to respond exactly how they think and feel about that time right then and there, but other times it happens later. But yeah, Will Smith, I love you, but you need to get out of that relationship. Alfarius says, worst part is due to social media. A lot of companies and artists there are cucking, like putting in gender neutral terms for character creations, or the Guilty Gear creator making a character a troon.
I don't even know what it is.
These people are coming under pressure. And it's funny enough, because you would think that the Japanese creators wouldn't listen to the Western culture of what's happening, but it's starting to bleed, man. It's starting to bleed into a lot of different stuff. And it's quite scary, because I mean, I think you would agree, Joe, like that's what the Bible said. It's going to happen. So,
well, we're gonna see it everywhere at some point, but we haven't seen it quite yet presented in the way that we know it's going to 100% come. Like, yes, things are upside down. Yes, good is evil and evil is good to some degree, but there's still too big of a swath of people that know the difference, even if they're not religious, that are just very right-leaning or very, old school American. And I feel like those people have not been tricked on a mass enough scale yet.
Yeah.
There's some things we're waiting to see how it plays out, but we ultimately know like how it's going to in a big picture way, even though we haven't quite got there yet. And it's tough because sometimes like you'll see people that really like, we got to fight back against this and that and this and that. And it's like, yeah, we do. But at the same time, a point's going to come where it doesn't matter what you do. Certain things are going to go a certain way, and there's nothing we can do to change that. And we just got to be able to identify it when it's happening so that we know how to react properly. Because that's going to be the hardest part, is watching a lot of people that we might love and care about not knowing how to react properly and either giving in, or we saw it with the COVID vaccine. Tons of people fucking that knew clearly better, just succumbing to peer pressure over something that can give you an artery that looks like a piece of a Tetsuo that grew throughout your body. Like, that's not what normal blood clots look like, people. They don't look like some root that's been growing inside of you with bulbous, freaky, alien-looking chunks hanging off of it. That's not typical unless your body's been sitting as a corpse for a month and all the blood's just been coagulating inside of it. It's really unusual for 17 and 20-year-old healthy athletes to have these things that look like alien creatures being pulled out of the arteries in their legs and in their innards. And there's something not not correct about all that. So
Yeah, it's a scary
but
thing.
peer pressure, dude. People will literally let their kids get shot up with toxic drugs over peer pressure. It's absolutely insane. I cannot wrap my mind around it. There are so many things I will never let my
Mhm.
kids participate in, no matter what anybody else thinks.
That's
And
the
I
that's the
Go ahead.
weirdest thing too, because that's what the Antichrist does. Is somehow he figures out how to unite the world
yes,
together, and it's like that's the scariest thing. Is exactly what does he say or do that unites the world together to believe in him? You know, that's just it's
yeah.
it's
What
freaky.
makes him so beloved on a large scale like that?
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
going to be
Ugh.
something, and I think even we'll go. Look, I get why you guys are tricked, but you got to listen to me. Like I think that's going to really happen. We're going to go. Look, I get it. He's done all this great stuff, but I'm telling you, there's something off about this dude because I
Mhm.
don't even know. We'll know it immediately. It'll take things falling in place for us to go, okay, I get what's going on here.
Mhm.
This is that dude. This is him. Okay, I guess I'm going to live in a mountain for a little while till I see the fireballs.
Oh gosh.
till I see them shooting nukes
Well,
in the sky, thinking they're going to
that's a
kill God
crazy
somehow.
thing. That's a crazy thing that happens is that sacrifice comes back.
Yes,
It comes back. So be
it's
prepared, folks. Be prepared to see something like an a sacrifice happening in the altar. Oh,
you thought the Aztecs were crazy. Wait till you see what the Antichrist starts
yeah.
encouraging people to do. You think you're reading old Bible stories about people putting their kids in furnaces is
Mhm.
terrifying enough within itself because it is. It's absolutely disgusting and appalling in every way. Wait till we get to 2032. I'm just making up a
Gosh.
number.
Chaos says it. Tom's one of the few base Canadians. Apparently, he's American now. With the Will Smith thing, it would have turned into the ghetto Oscars. I say abandon the kids, Will. They're a lost cause. Tom's the Shapiro of rap, sticks to mainstream, almost GOP talking points, rarely goes off the Reds, and is only controversial because he's not a leftist and popular. Yeah, but for me, and I have talked about this with my friends a little bit too, even the Daily Wire and stuff, it's starting to become corporate. It's starting to become corporate America. And that's something you kind of have to be wary about. You know, they have great information that you can get and stuff, but you know,
So I say in the modern age, the way you have to look at all of these things, even the people or the organizations that are supposed to like quote unquote be on our side.
hmm
Does anyone legitimately ever try to cancel them? If the answer is no, like outside of just complaining people on Twitter, then they're
hmm
probably not on our side.
yeah.
The Daily Wire, while they do put out some good information, and I think Ben does offer some really excellent debate points for people trying to educate themselves on things maybe they're not super familiar with when their
hmm
liberal friends bring up certain topics. Yeah, that's kind of a thing. Is you gotta look at how the legitimate people are treated in
hmm
comparison to guys that are also supposed to be legitimate but seem to just never have these problems. You know.
Well, that was the big thing too, is that a lot of the Daily Wire people were bitching about when Elon says, "Oh, you can just subscribe to Twitter and you'll get your blue verified." And these people are going, "Well, why should people get blue verified and blah blah blah?" And it's like, dude, if
Yeah.
you're all about free speech, then you, as someone who's high up there on the rank, should not feel bad when a nobody or what have you gets brought up to equal terms. If you're bitching about that, then that's sus, dude. That's
It
super
is.
sus.
It is
Like,
when they can control their Twitter accounts however they
yeah,
like and
mhm,
pretending like it's too much work to
yeah.
figure that out on their own. It's like, guys, you have the same mutant block the rest of us do. You have the same whatever. If there's
That's the
people you don't want to see popping up, figure it out.
that's the
Retards.
funniest thing, Joe. I do not understand why they're so afraid of the mute block button. No one's
Yeah.
gonna care if you mute someone. No one's gonna care if you block someone. Like, come
Dude,
on,
I
people.
mute people all the time. I
Yeah.
block corporate ads all the time. Like my block list is probably 10,000 different Apple betting websites for sports, all kinds of just random crap that I'm like, don't care.
Mhm.
And I mute a lot of people that I just get tired of. I just don't want to see their words because they have no value and their thoughts have no value whatsoever.
Alfarius says, remember when Corey Haim was blacklisted and laughed at for exposing Peter Wood and no one cared? No one, or now everyone's pretending to be on board with him for years.
Oh yeah,
That's-
he's dead. It's easy to be on board when he can't be there to say anything or
Yeah.
defend himself. That's how those people are.
That's
They're fraud.
that's the scary thing, and I think that's where independent like creators and stuff are really rising to the top because they're not a part of that, and they can say, hey, if you want to support my stuff, you can support my stuff, you know.
But dude, even though it's degenerate, it's why OnlyFans is popping off because a girl can do her thing in private now and not have some weird coked up fiends over them trying to coax them into doing things beyond what they're comfortable with. And I'm not encouraging it by any means. If you have an OnlyFans, cancel it now and get a real job. But because you're not gonna be desirable to a husband ever. But it's just even that. Like people, we want entertainment minus corruption. And the only way we can get it is by doing it ourselves. It's literally it. And it's a lot of work and it's hard to do this stuff. I don't blame people for wanting Disney to do the work for them. Disney's done great work in their time, but they're not our friends. They don't care about our kids.
Exactly. Is the price worth sacrificing your morals and your belief? I personally think it's no. It's no, especially if you're one of faith too.
Yeah.
Like, well, we are at 2 hours, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna call the stream for tonight. So
Right on.
Yeah, Joe, thanks again for
Oh,
hopping
thanks
on.
for having me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My apologies if the Jefferson's Creek got into the bloodstream pretty thick. So
No need to apologize, dude. You're actually keeping it together. You sound sober compared to most people I know.
Chaos Smash says it's nice seeing you rejects. I appreciate that, Joe. Even though I know I slurred a little bit there, here and there, it pisses me off, but that's all right. But yes, so with that, just because, and I don't want to go into it too much, I might be doing a hiatus for a little bit, just to get my thoughts on of what I want to do for the next step. Again, it's nothing with the content providing and whatnot. It's just behind the scenes of stuff that I need to think about of what I need to do and whatnot. So I apologize if there is a little bit of a hiatus. I don't think so. I'll try my best, but it may not be as continuant as what it is. But of course, I'm always down to talk with Joel and trying to get other guests on as well.
Well, you've got a real life too. It's not like
Yeah.
YouTube's all you've got. We have
I
other
know.
things about than YouTube schedule sometimes, so I don't think anyone blames you there.
I know. I'm just trying to do what God I feel has called me to do. You know, and you get frustrated sometimes when you don't see the fruition of the work you put in, but that, you know, that's where you got to stay in faith, my friends.
I'll tell you this real quick, last minute from
Yeah, sure.
experience. A lot of these situations that you're kind of talking about right now, in a general sense, it's odd how, in hindsight, we all start to realize like God had to put us through certain frustrations in order for us to move forward.
Yeah.
And like I got rejected from every comic book publisher you can think of, like over the course of 18 years, probably hundreds of times. And you know why? Because that industry is filled with disgusting people that I would never put a long-term hang with. They would run me through the mud and try, even if I did good work for them in the past. In the modern age, they would have totally backstabbed me. And I would have never gotten along. And the Lord protected me. He said, no, I know you want to do this and do that as a young man, but you're going to get a big fat no. because if you
Mhm.
enter this world, these people are going to change you because you're
Yep.
young and impressionable. And he kept me away from it till I was old enough and had enough wisdom to properly deal with these things. So there's a lot of blessing in tough times, even if it's tough to see in the moment.
Yeah,
Anyone
absolutely.
out there.
And I agree with you, Joe, too. And that's for everyone out there as well. Sometimes God says no, and you may not understand why he says no, but it's obviously for your best intentions. And it just leads up for better things down the road, too. So,
Yeah.
but there's nothing wrong in questioning with him. Job ultimately questioned with him until God finally came down and said, you know, were you there during creation? Can you explain to me the morality of men? I don't think you can. And he goes, no. And that's the thing too, is sometimes God says no because your perspective of him and your belief in him and your faith in him, if you go into where you're going, can alter and change. And God wants to protect you from that too.
It's the same reason you don't let your kids eat candy every day.
Yep.
A parent
exactly.
has to say no, whether you know why they're saying no or not.
Nico says, I'd love to connect and talk to Joe one day, get him back on again. Joe, you are always welcome back online, says, Nico, Joe's information should be in the description below. I'm glad I've met Joe and I'm glad I got to talk with him and hopefully can still maintain friendship with him and whatnot.
Oh, likewise, man. And yeah, hit me up anytime, Nico.
Yep. And Chaos says, good to know when Greg is drunk, he's still lucid. I'm not drunk, but I'm definitely tipsy. So I apologize if I sound like a complete ass or if some stuff does not make sense. So, but I try my best.
Back on the sauce.
What's up?
I said, Greg's back on the sauce, like
I
someone
am
that's
back
all
on the sauce. And Nico says, have a great night and thanks again, giving gents. Absolutely. Yep. I'm always trying to get people who I feel connected with and whatnot and always try to get them on the show. So I can only do so much. So obviously any support from you guys would benefit as well. And that's something as simple as contacting whoever you think would be a good guest and say, hey, contact Power Kid Greg. I would love to hear you talk with them. That's the best you can do. And that's all I would ask for. And obviously any other sort of support obviously will be appreciated, but that's all based on you guys. So Joe, and is there anything else you would like to promote before we sign off?
No, we already went through it earlier. I think that's good enough. Check out my book, That Death. It's live on Indiegogo. You can find all the links on my Twitter and whatnot and in the description. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think everyone here's already heard the spiel enough times, so I'm good.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, I will. Nico says I will definitely hit you up on Twitter, Joe. Sweet. Yep.
Oh.
Joe's information should be in the description. Contact him that way, and I'm sure Joe will get back to you. But thanks again, you guys, for all the support and just hanging out. Thanks again, Joe, for coming on last minute. I know it was a last minute thing, so I appreciate you finding the time to chill with me.
Yeah.
I will. I'm sure I'll be continuing the game streaming. Like I said, it's a rough patch at the moment, and I'm not trying to let it get to me. It's just frustrating, So I'm really thankful for everyone to come by and hang out with me and help alleviate my my worries, even though if some alcohol had to be involved in it, which obviously it shouldn't be. Make sure you proportion everything rightly. I'm not responsible for what you do. That whole thing in case something happens. Heaven forbid.
Hey, Craig, you want to snort some coke with me? Just kidding.
I've never done coke before. I'm wondering what that would be like.
I'll tell you sometime. It's interesting.
Is it?
It's
okay.
Here's what it is. I'll make it real simple because I know we're trying to wrap it up. It's like a lion. A lion can be a lot of fun, but respect its strength, because if you stick your head in its mouth, it will bite your head off. So
okay.
They're cool, they're fun to look at, and they're pretty, and they can be a good time. But don't fuck around with them too much because they'll get you.
Well, there you go, YouTube. We're not promoting everything. Don't be a faggot, and don't do anything to destroy my channel. But then again, I want to give a shit because I'm over on Rumble as well, and Locals, powerkegred.locals.com. I do agree with Nick that I think that's a place that's working to try to really grow, and instead of being an alt tech, is trying to become just a tech. And I'd love to just build that community with just that sort of thing. And hopefully they'll get gaming streaming under control and like figure it out and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
again, everything is in the description. Hit me up then. Thanks again, Joe. Afarius says, you, Eric, and Joe, best stream. Yeah, I'd love to get Eric back on too. Best bud. Best friend forever. I know he's been busy with stuff too, but definitely would want everyone to get back again. And of course, do an Evangelion and analysis as well. I will definitely hit up Joe on Twitter, says Nico, and Chaos Smash says, better not, faggot. I won't. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. All right, guys. Well, if I don't see you guys like on the game stream and whatnot, have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your family, any family figures and whatnot. And remember, God's always with you. He'll support you. And just keep strong, stay in the faith. And I appreciate all the support, and I love you guys. So I'll catch you guys later. And thanks again, Joe, for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Yep. See you guys later. Bye.
Later.